Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Barry Kostrinsky. These are artist talks. I've been doing it for about 2 months. Before that, under another platform with Artist Talk on Art. Today's a unique format. Last week we went ahead, and today, September 6th, already September, we opened up dialogue more amongst the artists. And we did have a presenter, Audrey, a brilliant presenter. And by the way, all the talks are up on the YouTube channel. Except the last one, because I've been a little late with that. So what I will say is we opened up the dialogue and discussion, and I had some people actually respond saying, you know, there was a lot to talk about and maybe we could revisit it. So I definitely want to do that tonight as the focus. And as I mentioned earlier, I think if anybody would like to share, they're welcome to type in the message, and of course you can screen share and discuss your work. But I think what I'll do is I'll randomly go through some of the Instagram accounts, some of the people. So we have visuals, and I'll let the conversation sort of roll as we go. It's a loose format, I'll say that. And of course, I don't have Michael Krasowitz here, so you always need your wingman. But I will put it out there first to anybody who has a topic, or even focus right away to Elisa, who has an exhibition up, and ask, how does your topic address an important issue to you or to us today? But at the same time, I want you to all think of any topic, you know, whether it's color, process, meaning, anything you'd like to discuss, and we'll just sort of throw it out and we'll roll. So give some thought.
Well,
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know, I guess I'm a little slow, but you know, when topics come up like they did last time, I feel kind of, you know, there's a lot of grist for the mill to think about. And I don't necessarily feel, you know, that I'm ready to just jump in. You know, I admire other people who can do that, you know, so quickly with so much that's so insightful to say. But I need sometimes time to think about a lot of that, especially when so many, and some of the things I just think, well, there are things I think and have thought about as well, but they've already said it and said it better probably than I can. And I just, you know, I mean, those are all topics I think we all think about and explore, and, you know, question of truth and beauty and, you know, idealism and creativity. I mean, that's why we're spending our lives on this. And it's just, I mean, I could talk about with other artists about that all day and think about it. And then, but with other people's, you know, several people putting in their input, sometimes it just, you know, feels like maybe I'm better off just listening. So.
Well, I will say, listening, from what I've learned and from working with kids and from working with play, listening and being a quiet mind and receiving is a big deal. And it's when you do your best learning, when you do flow up. But I agree with you, because I've had presenters here before as well, when they speak like this, and then come 12 words that have like 6 paragraphs in them, because they're so deep. And it's the way their mind and process works, and it's beautiful. And I know when it's coming, because their speech has a cadence, but I can never get it, because I get it for a second, but like you're saying, it's like too deep that it needs, I have to breathe through that thought. It's a lot to take in. And there are some crazy cartoons, adult cartoons I watched. You got to watch them 4 or 5 times, because that's, you know, the speed sometimes of those things.
Yeah. There's certain things are really, for me, just, you know, that I can't do more than just ponder them for at least for a while before I have some kind of, you know, response that seems to make any sense, or just see, you know, it may just seem superfluous after what was said, or, you know, it's like, why say anything more when it was already perfect?
When I do teach, one thing I say, and it's often when it's with younger kids, I'll say, and by the way, if someone has said it already, you could say it again too. And you know what happens? it's like they don't have that feeling like, oh, they got it. You know, orange is what you get with yellow and red. And they all get to participate. You know, others will say things, then they'll try and say it a little differently. So yes, it's a group community dynamic there. Yeah. Something interesting. Mm. Elisa, would you like to share? I'll ask you to unmute.
I'm unmuting now. Well, I have one good news for me in a way, because you asked me for my installation at the Hudson Valley MOCA, and I already mentioned before the recording that it's one of the few times that I didn't have second thoughts, and it came out really better than I thought. So most of the time I go back, you know, I come back to the student and say, oh, I could have put this lower, upper, you know, move a little bit to the left, right. But this time I'm really pleased what my installation is about, and also the way that it looks better than I thought. And it is about the environment, but I have two bodies of work. One is what people knows me more about my ancestral work. And I have an environmental series. And I'm kind of finding, that's why I'm kind of in a good, you know, place this week, because I think that I'm finding a way to just merge in a way both. Not just having like two distinctive bodies of work. And I think that kind of celebrating that, because for me, it's all the same, but some people say, oh, you have this body of work and you have this body of work, and you know, that kind of thing. Maybe it happens to other artists, but I'm kind of in a good mood because
I'm going to turn off.
I'm just saying that. I mean, if you can go to my Instagram, I can show you a piece, one of the last one that I posted that is called Mother Earth.
I was just doing that, so I think
it's the previous to the last one. If you click on that one, that one.
Let's see.
Good, thank you.
Bear with me.
Yes.
Yeah, my computer's, there we go. That's as large as she'll get from me.
Yeah, that's okay. What I'm saying is that the environment, I mean, the earth and the circle, but you can see that I'm using my ancestral stones. And this is kind of one of the few times that I'm coming to merge the two bodies of work. If you go to a previous one.
Okay.
And then I will give the word to somebody else. But no, that's the last one that is a very small, more my ancestral work. This one. This is an installation, is also about the environment. You can see it's a black photograph that I do photograph. I'm not a photographer, but I use photography in my installations. And if you see in the bottom, I use one of my trunks that also has the ancestral language. So I'm kind of, at this moment, I feel that I'm kind of merging the two in a way. So I'm kind of pleased about that. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but.
How has it developed from what you were doing before? What do you think that there's anything different about what you're doing now, or that you're bringing into it, or it's
before, as I said, I treated my two bodies of work on a different, like, you know, if I do this photography, I won't put objects that are related with my ancestral work. but I don't know, it's coming naturally now. Before was, this is my environmental work, and this is my ancestral work. And I have them very separate in my mind too, or my understanding, but now I can see that connection. That is the difference. And it feels good because both are talking about almost the same for me. And I was not able to put them together until now. I can say until this moment. So this is what I'm celebrating and sharing with you. I don't know if any of you has several bodies of work and they have the same situation. Many of us have different bodies of work, and sometimes people know that, oh, you are doing this, you are doing that, but now I feel that I'm doing the two bodies, but they can merge in a way. The message may be different, but aesthetically, I can use some of my objects in one and the other. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if I answered the question. Maybe I repeated myself. But.
Yeah, well, I guess it, it clarified for me, yeah. And that is a question the pandemic changed everything in a way. There was a lot of work that I probably would have never shown publicly, but, because I think many of us have different bodies of work that we do, or different explorations we do, but because we don't want to confuse people about what we're doing, we kind of kept it to ourselves. But I kind of used the pandemic as a time to just show what I just was working on, just in general, and kind of use it as an experiment to just get feedback on other things I did, and maybe other inputs that I might have gotten in a more intimate setting, when we could actually see each other in person.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the pandemic, of course, put us in a different mood, and many of us work more or this or that. I mean, different situations. But this came natural because I feel like I was a little bit divided, and I said, oh, how can I do this? Just to feel that it's like a wholesome, like, that kind of feeling. It's my own feeling. It's not something that maybe people will notice. I'm just saying the visitors or the public, but, I kept very separate, my two bodies of work, but now I feel that I can integrate a bit, and it makes me happy because it's just my own person doing it,
Yes, Audrey?
Just a quick question, Elisa. Is your show going on now?
Yes, it is not my show this time. I had a solo at that museum in 2015, and it was extremely large and 6 months. No, this is just an installation within an exhibit, a group exhibit curated by Viviana Juan Matais. And she selected artists that will speak about the environment. It's called Address Earth. It's a very interesting museum if you have the time, even if it is not for this exhibit. I encourage everyone to visit. It's in Peekskill, New York, and it's called Hudson Valley MOCA. They had limited hours than before, but if you go to their website, and if you type in on Google Hudson Valley MOCA, it will jump on you, and they have a wonderful art collection. Always is a very interesting museum to visit. It's a large place, it's high ceilings, and they have big sculptures and big paintings, and it's always surprising and very contemporary, of course. You have to like contemporary art, but enjoy contemporary. Even if you don't enjoy, it's a good museum to visit. There is another museum that I don't have a work there, but I encourage to visit. It's called Magazzino, and it's in Cold Spring. It's a Magazzino art, and it's about Italian art. it's a free museum opened by two collectors, a couple from New York City, that they opened this museum maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And it's so well done. It's just a treat for the eyes. The art is compelling. They have videos about the art. I mean, a small area with videos that you can enjoy and understand what is Italian art, especially the art povera. That is one of the movements of Italian art. And the work is exquisite and it's free. And the museum in itself is such a great building that they built. It's called Magazzino Art.
I put the links in the chat. If you use the chat, Hudson Valley MOCA, Magazzino Art, and for our talks as well. Just to let you know, we won't be having a talk next week. I'll be visiting the CIA.
Or will they?
You're talking about the Culinary Institute?
I think I'll just leave it at the CIA. It sounds so much more James Bond than dinner.
Okay.
Culinary Institute of America.
Yes, it is. And with my fiance, her birthday. So we're going up to Rhinebeck. So just want to let you know. But then the next Tuesday, we do have an artist on the calendar, and then the following Tuesday as well. And a few other artists. In fact, Lori Horowitz is here. And Lori will be the speaker. I believe it's on the 27th. And on the 20th will be Savannah Spirit. But you can see it all too on my website. I do want to say, I've noticed something. I really like when I see Lori work and make art. And, you know, I watch Emily and I'm like, is there like watercolor going on there? Is she doing a portrait? And I like the idea of, and I just want to ask a curious question. How many of the artists here draw? You know, it's that simple, like drawing from life or pictures and stuff. Because, you know, I used to have a drawing group, as Emily knows, from, it seems like 3,000 years ago. We used rock and stone. No, it was probably 15 years ago, but it seems like forever ago. And I'm looking to start it up again. And of course, there's no live model in Zoom, but it is doable. I do know models who I can link who can come here, can be on the screen, and instead of showing their image, they show their video and their modeling. Whoever wants to draw, draws. It's sort of like what you were mentioning, Elisa, about putting together elements of your art or different styles within your art or different materials and bringing it together, which is probably impossible to do because artists who do that do such a variety of stuff. But it's a similar approach to saying, well, we're talking and we're drawing, because you know when you draw or when you doodle or when you don't listen in class and look out the window, you're actually listening better. And I've been watching ceramicists, and I've noticed a few who, when they throw, they're purposely looking away. Because it's true, when you get good at throwing on the wheel, you feel it. You don't need to see it. You really feel it. I don't know. It's just an interesting point, I thought. Something I want to, yes, Audrey.
So when you talk about doing drawing from something you're watching on the screen, during the pandemic, I was visiting, I can't think of the name of the site, but actually on my Instagram page, there's like a 30-second clip. And what I did was I hooked up my laptop to the large TV so that I could work from the model in a bigger size. I didn't want to work from a tiny image in my field of view. And that was like a pretty cool thing to do. And I did a number of sessions with this group. I can't think of their name right now, but if I find it, I'll put it in the chat.
I'm going to share the screen and show some of the images on your screen. I'm just rolling through.
If you do go way down to a video,
there's a video.
It's a lot further back. You can actually see me standing in front of a big TV screen, and it's kind of a fun image. I would keep going.
I'm gonna go.
I'll tell you when you get there.
I know, I'm letting us see a little.
Oh, okay.
You can get dizzy scrolling. Whoops, there it goes, just a dizzy scroll. You know, it'd be funny to, as an artwork, you have like an image up, but it's just 2 seconds and it goes to the next. And the poor people are looking at it and it's like they're not getting enough time because they're going to give it, say, 3 to 6 seconds, most likely, or something little. But you sort of take it, you know, I have a theme in my art where the art is aggressive towards the viewer. It's more of a joke. It's a soft aggression, but it's sort of saying there's a different control.
That's it.
Oops, that's it. This one?
Yes, that's the one. It's kind of fun.
Okay, let's see.
And I think you'll be able to see how it would.
Ah, I see, yes. So you're working on, and you have it on the big screen. You work fast, I'll say that, Audrey.
Indeed.
Simplest jokes always work. Well, that's a smart way to do it, because you're right. I've done, like, when you see all of us here, I go ahead and I look at one person and I draw them, and then I draw a little, and I've done that, and I love doing that. So I don't necessarily need a model, because it's challenging when you're in a position and then you move. So it gets really challenging. A lot of us sit still, but a lot of us don't sit 100% still. So that's a fun thing to do. And then, of course, you try and do it quick enough before the person moves. So it motivates you. Sometimes, you know, that's good for me. It may not be good for other artists. Michael, you missed my introduction. I mentioned we go for more talks and format. Open up a can of Michael, and Michael's not here, but you showed up. I know you would. I do want to say Michael has an open studio coming at his house, at his studio, while there's an open art event going on at a museum nearby. You want to share about that a little, Michael? And then you had a topic, a one-word topic that I think anybody could answer in 5 words. That's the goal tonight. Whatever Michael says, we have to explain it in 5 words.
Oh, I am so unprepared. I'm sorry. Hi everybody. Yeah, we have this. So the story is there's a thing called the Long Island Biennial. Lori knows about it, and it's a local museum, and every 2 years they do like a kind of a group show to showcase Long Island artists. And I can tell you guys that I remember when they initially wanted to do it, they wanted to do it once a year, and because they do this with students. So I went to them and I said, don't do that, because if you do it, it's gonna make you look like it's just amateur hour and everybody's just gonna put their work up. So I said, make it a biennial, have your curators go out all over Long Island, do studio visits, and pick 6 artists and do a biennial, do a real thing, 6. It's a small museum, and they didn't like that idea. So I mean, this is just between you and us, right? So they wound up doing kind of the group show format with about 60 artists, and they do it every 2 years, and they call it the biennial. So, well, one of the good things they do is they promote artists for doing it. So they picked a bunch of artists, and they're gonna have an open studio, and people are from the museum are gonna travel to like 8 or 10 artists' spaces. So okay. I'm gonna piggyback on that and do this thing anyway. So that's what that's about. We'll see. I just started doing the marketing now, because I've learned that you've got to get the press release out early. I think I learned that from Elisa, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to start marketing every week. I'm going to do a social media thing and try to build some energy into it and see if anybody comes. I'm kind of, for me, this is really, in my personal experience, it's kind of my last hurrah. I've got to the point where if this doesn't work and nothing sells, which I'm probably not going to sell, I'm just going to totally change my energy, and I'm going to be a wedding photographer, and I'm done, because we are literally, living penny by penny, and I'm so burnt out, and I've worked so hard at it, and I just learned my lesson. I think that you know, I can be a pretty good wedding photographer and make a living at it, and I'm just shot. I'm tired of chasing it, man. But anyway, so boring.
Michael, let me jump in.
Come today because of that.
Let me jump in. I've, you know, we had the cable box go out, so I can't watch too much on there, but I do have other venues to waste my time watching. But because the box is out, I go to YouTube and I go to some headsy things, short conversations on Nietzsche, you know, catch up on the thinkers. I saw something on Lao Tzu, a few things on him, and some other Eastern thought. And Michael, the answer they say is to be, well, you know, the answer, you know, is, be like water. Don't try and make it happen. You can't change the flow. Your flow may be to doing these, you know, wedding shoots. Could have been that all along. From that, other rivers and channels are going to open. And like you say, you've been fighting it and doing it. And, you know, most of us want to say, keep going, Michael. You're great. You're brilliant. Your work is, you know, it's out there and it's in there. It's totally gettable. It's fun. It's happy. It's got so many elements. Your clothing work, all of it should work. And I think it will. But obviously, you know, it's this concept, this Eastern concept that you don't push for it to happen. And where is the world pushing you? You're saying you need money. You're saying you could be a really good wedding photographer. Do you like it? I know you schlep equipment, and I know you're not 25.
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's part of, another part of it too is, you know, it's part of the same conversation as to, you know, I think the good part of this experience that I've had is that I'm not tied, the value of what I'm doing is not tied to any kind of response by an audience. So I'm not like, I don't have to have that to think that what I do is for myself or whatever happens to be. I think that you know, it's a, I'm sorry guys, I was just not going to talk about this. I think that like Elisa just said, it's like all these years and all of a sudden she reached this point where it's a synthesis of what she's doing to this thing where now she's taking all these disparate elements and creating one body, you know, one thing out of it. I think that's the experience. The experience is a human personal experience. We make art because we put ourselves in the path of enlightenment. And the path that we follow through the process, the creative process, if we get to share it with an audience, that's wonderful. That's gravy. If we can financially support ourselves, that's gravy too. But I think that what we're doing is we're doing it for self-actualization. If we need an audience for that process of self-actualization, it's actually a flaw in our character. We shouldn't need that to do what we do, because then you know, I mean, and not that, no, you don't need that to do what I need to do. You know, I started doing this because I had a nervous breakdown when I was 18 years old. And I had done art, but I wasn't very serious about it, but I had lost my shit. And I spent 1.5 years drawing. I just spent 1.5 years at a little table in the bedroom where I grew up, just drawing to get myself back to normal, just to get back to where I could even function. And so it's become a lifelong process of self-reflection through art. So, so I think that, I mean, I'm really telling you guys, I was just knocked out because I just had to go food shopping today, and I came home and I was like, oh shit, you know, we had to buy this and we had to buy garbage bags, and I was like, how the fuck am I going to pay for this? And I was like, and I worked my ass off. So boring. I did 3 weddings this weekend. I worked 36 hours. I'm driving all over the fucking place. I'm still editing pictures. I'll be editing pictures till tomorrow, just to make enough money to know that I don't have enough money to get through the month. That's how I live. Every month, it's such a fucking fight. It's been 5 years of this shit. And I learned so much about thinking about art and how to talk about art. And I was talking to Barry. I was at this after party after the wedding. I had to go work 3 more hours at somebody's house where they're all drinking and stuff, and I'm sitting there taking pictures of them. I'm so burnt out. And I met an architect. So I started talking to the architect, and what does she do for a living? I don't know. She works in IT or something like that. And she's an architect. She's a brilliant woman. And I'm talking to her husband, and they're both doing something to make a living. You know, they're young people. And we were talking about, what was it I talked about last week? I think it started with an S, I can't remember. And then she started talking about the gestalt. So that's what I was going to talk about. Barry and I were talking this afternoon. And it was interesting, you know. So she's coming from the same thing. They're trying to make a living. They're trying to support their family, their young family. And, you know, it's just like, then I had to get up 3 hours later, 4 hours later and do it again. And I still don't have enough money, and I still don't know what I'm going to do. So I don't know. So
what wasn't there that Greek story? Is it Sisyphus? He rolls a rock up a hill or something, and I don't know, a bird eats out his liver. I'm probably combining two Greek and maybe one Roman mythology there. But the point is, and you know, the Nietzsche that I've been, you know, reading a little bit, the struggle is life. That's the way you got to look at it. And there are a lot of real struggles, Michael, and I don't doubt your struggle in any way. But I've got to tell you, you'll walk out the street whenever, like, I had a bad back, and it got a lot better. I had a cortisone shot. And whenever I think about it, then I look and somebody's walking past me and they're like in a wheelchair, or they've got a cane, and it always happens. And so, you know, you're right, but you know, you got a beautiful wife, you're in a home, you can create art, and you have an opportunity, like, you know, so many great artists. J.C. Rice is, I think, a great photographer, and he shoots for the Post, and it half kills him, but it feeds his family. But it feeds his whole life. And he is still making incredible photographs. Michael, you can channel, and I'm sure there's gold more than just the payment. And yes, it is hard, you know, and I've seen no roof over my head. You know, I've seen things most of you haven't. And I don't want to say, but all I'll say is you could have $6 million and 2 houses and the big income and all the taxes and the kids in the school and still not think you have enough. So
I agree with you. I agree with you, and I'm very embarrassed that I'm even talking about this.
What you shared, Michael, what you shared was beautiful, and it continued a trend that's happened in these talks where artists share without realizing it, their core reason for being artists. And it's usually in some strong emotional decisions and experiences. And you shared that about drawing for a year. Audrey, you wanted to say something?
I have so much to say. Starting with, Michael, your work is brilliant. So, I mean, you produce, you have the soul of an artist, you have the intellect of an artist, you have all kinds of wonderful things going on. And as a person that's involved in the arts, as a gallerist, and artists always ask me about art markets and blah, blah, blah. And it's a cliche at this point for me to say it, but art as a business, the idea of supply and demand is so lopsided. My definition of an artist is someone who has one job to support another. Being an artist is a true vocation. It's a passion. It's something you have to do. We would like to make a living from it, but it's very, very rare that people do. So if you're at a point in your life where you're sort of rethinking how you work it, that's fine. But what I'm going to say is, I don't like to say shouldn't. It's unrealistic to take it on yourself to expect to make a living as an artist. I mean, does anybody on this talk make 100% of their living off of their artwork?
Well, you know, I think Audrey, the point isn't that it's making a living. I think that's, maybe I'm explaining it wrong. I think that there's a philosophical construct at the heart of what I do, which is that the revelation of the art will lead to a higher state of consciousness of the artist. The artist's experience, which they share with the public, is basically that path. The path, it's like a Buddhist thing, right? So
Right.
you're on this path to enlightenment, but and that's that path. If you think about it, should be rewarded, and it is rewarded because your inner self, you become more balanced between your inner self and external self, your consciousness enlightened. And Buddha, to do that, gave up everything and sat underneath a tree for a few years, right? And never held any objects as, valuable. And it's like this, it's I say the same thing. If to really reach enlightenment, at some point, the artist has to let go of the art to really reach because the art is, in a way, it's a kind of self-reflective crutch to get us to that point of higher consciousness. If you still rely upon the art, if I have a garage full of art. If you still rely on the art, then that art holds you to the earth, and you can never really achieve, if there is such a thing to achieve. You know what I mean? So I'm balancing that consciousness with, this having a house or having a place to live and not being homeless and things like that.
As loud as it can be.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Lori.
Michael and I have talked about this many, many times for hours and hours. And over the last, 5-7 years, you've managed to balance and do this. And I've heard you say, I've had enough, but then you keep coming forward. And this year, I think you produce more really incredible work than I've seen you produce in other years. It's very strong and important. And keep balancing, it's a dance you do. And, maybe you'll have to do more photography this month or this year, but, it's not all or nothing. And you're managing to balance. And so just keep going and just, you're doing okay.
Yes, Jenna.
Well, Mike and I have also spoken over the years for many, many times about this. And, Mike he's a true artist in every way. He can't do anything else. He's talented in many areas where he could make a living, but he can't do it because this is who he is. And it is the struggle of the artistic life. Some of us struggle more than others with that. But he, that is his cross to bear, so to speak. But I don't think it makes it any less valid. And the work he does, I've always thought was incredible. And it just, every bone in his body is about being an artist. And it is a shame that it's so hard. But nobody guarantees us doing this, that our life is easier because of it. I certainly don't feel that about mine, but it's the only choice I was able to make. And, it's just, but as Lori said, Mike we talked at a time when he was very lonely, and now he has a wife and a daughter, and he, I know it's a struggle for the home, but he still has it. And it's easy to say there's a beauty and all that when you're looking from the outside. In the inside, it's a very painful struggle, as we all know, to give the focus of our life be art. But I know that you will get through this, as you always do, and that you will continue to make your art. And as some of the people said, and maybe Lori, that maybe at the moment you might have to devote more time to the photography. But I know you, and I know you're never going to give up your art. You can't, and so I know you have these dark periods where it's really hard, but you will persevere.
I appreciate everything you guys are saying. First of all, I'm really embarrassed that I'm talking about me, and I'm really like, it's not necessary. And I'm thinking, how can I turn this back to more of a, because we all are in the same boat, and it's more of a universal struggle. So and I'm a little embarrassed that I started with this whole thing.
Well, I want to say that each of you are saying part of the truth. I mean, it's like, I'm listening each of you, and I think that we are all contributing with different angles of, the situation that Michael feels. And, I think there is nothing wrong to have a period that you rest a bit of doing art. If you go to most of the biographies of other artists, they have periods that they produce less or they take a break. I mean, nothing wrong. You will be an artist until you are gone, because that's what you did all your life and it's in your blood. But I don't think that there is any wrong. Just if you say, well, I need to work and I'll work for a period and I have to rest a bit of doing, I mean, just take off the pressure. I think it will be, the stress and the pressure will be very good for you. And whenever you have the time, you'll create or you go back to the studio. It's nothing wrong to do that at all. And also, to sustain your family and yourself, it's very common to have to work in something that is, maybe not your preference. But I like also to point what Barry said, because, I mean, you already say, I won't sell anything. You don't know. I encourage you not to think that way, just to open up the studio without that thought. Just even if it is what happens most of the time, I think that it's better to say, I will receive people without really, I will say or not sell. Just I will receive people, I will talk about my work, answer questions, share my art. And just, I like what Barry said about the water. We have to, I mean, maybe I have a coincidence without thinking, just to flow a little bit more, because just to stress ourselves, we already stress about the work and this and that, just to let go a little bit. And you mentioned Buddha, and, just to let go. I mean, you're very close to that, just to enjoy the day as it comes. You open the studio without really planning, no, I won't sell, just to let go and enjoy whatever it comes, because you never know, maybe you don't sell that day, but if maybe another day, people that visit your studio will collect your work. I mean, it happens to many of us, but just to not have that attitude, I think, Michael, I encourage you, maybe,
Elisa, you're hitting on something very important. If you're putting it out to the world that, whatever, that's what happens. And so attitude is a lot. A big thing at the Mayo Clinic that I learned, the doctors talk together and all that, but they bring an attitude of healing and faith, of all things. Even if you're not religious, the prayer, the faith is a big thing. And I'm not saying the faith in your art, but, for all of us, to say, oh, this is that, try and phrase things really positively. I did it for a little while and I got a very large commission. I will make a joke. The Buddha, it's a funny story. We all think of him, goes and he sits under a tree and he's enlightened. He left his wife who had given birth. Most people don't know that one. And then they try and explain, well, he saw pain and suffering. And yeah, sure he did. Like, I'm out of there. No Douglas for me. But yeah, it's not good to put the Buddha down, but that's my form of comedy.
No, and just going back, I was reading about energy and the power of thinking or making a wish or whatever. And the wish, it goes fast in our mind, but in real life, the materialize not always comes so fast. That just talking about quantum physics, if we go to when the desires come, it takes sometimes a while to elaborate, but we don't have to interfere with, yes, will happen, no, we don't, it won't happen. We have to continue, it will happen and let it go without really, that's what quantum physics says. I mean, I'm just repeating, but it's just educating ourselves not to contradict our desires or our wishes, and be patient that, you know, because we go back and forth so much that the energy gets confused. That's what the quantum physics says. I'm just repeating, as I said, what I'm learning. It's better to just make the desire and let it flow there, and it will happen maybe in tomorrow or in a few months or whatever, but we have to be clear not to just go this back and forth, yes, no, yes, no. I think that is an interesting practice. I'm just saying.
Good.
One of my favorite sayings is, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Yeah, Michael, there is the concept of the road to enlightenment and the path and all the things, the preparation and what you do, and that's Eastern. And then there's another Eastern concept that's all wrong. There's no path. There's just being and presence. And if you think you're traveling to enlightenment, no, you're actually confirming you're not in the present, and who knows where you're traveling to. Like you said, you could be thinking about, oh, I photographed this or I did that. So it's a weird one. Eastern thought is so different from itself, and then it's so different from, you know, capitalist materialism. Which
yes,
is
I want to say that I'm very thankful that Michael brought this, and I really care that you talk about yourself, Michael, because you're a wonderful presence, a lot of knowledge about. I mean, you helped me when I had the talk myself to bring my website to the group. I mean, you're really, like, you know, very helpful and a good heart. And why you cannot talk about yourself? I mean, thank you for doing it, and you have the whole right to do it. I mean, it's good. It's a good thing. And thank you. And you will have a great open studio.
Yes, you will, Michael, because you make great art. You did the hard part. You know, there are a lot of artists out there. You're quite unique, you know, and you're quite consistent in your quality. And your scale is versatile. You know, here's what I see happening. You dive into the photography, you pass out cards, you all of a sudden find some collectors, and one feeds the other. Now, yes, Audrey pointed it out, and I took I was in finance and then insurance and business plan. Business plan makes sense in those fields. In the art, rip it up, throw it in the garbage, just throw the money away. There is no way. Jeff Koons, he's a business plan man. He was in finance, and Gagosian was too. You know, there's a reason, you know, they're successful. They buy real estate, and, you know, the wealthy family buys art, and then there's the whole art one. You know, that's a whole big thing. But, you know, it's, you know, there's success at a lot of levels, and there's development of the soul and presence of the soul. And I know when I paint, I was in the studio today, I am more me or less me or better me. I'm everything I could be and not anything at all when I create. It is all right. No, I can't do it all the time. It's at times very easy. At times it's a mess. It is a variety of things. And with me, it's other materials. But I think all of us here, that's sort of us. And if you're doing yourself, you're done. You're enlightened. You're sort of, you know, when you do it. And when you take photographs, let's face it, you're going to events where people are celebrating. I laugh. I say to people, I eat more ice cream cake or I eat more birthday cake than anyone because I do a lot of parties for little kids. And yes, I feel like, is there a vampire draining my art out of me when I do these sort of silly birthday paint and sip paintings? And I know it is, but I know something else is coming in. Besides the money, something else. I learn from kids. You know, a lot of artists, a lot of thinkers learn from nature, and they learn from water, and also Tesla. You know, a lot of real thinkers learn from nature. I learn from kids. You watch them. You know, they are. You know, there's also a lot of bad to learn too. It could be quite mean, but So whatever you do, think of that as the presence. That's the moment, and that, Michael, you're you in that moment. That's the consistency. And, you're a nice guy. You can't say that about everybody. No offense to 7 billion people on this planet, 7.5, but you are. And you're important. You're important to this group, I'm sure to all your other groups and all your other connections. And, I look up to you on a lot of levels besides technological levels, on aesthetic and on dialogue. And as a creator, you check a lot of boxes. And maybe that's a weight. If you were just doing paper mache monkeys, you would just do that. You'd have someone do it. But I think a lot of us here are full artists. And that's
I would like to speak to that, Barry. Maybe I'm the only person here that hasn't spoken in person with Michael, but I feel like I've gotten a sense of you over these past couple of years. And I will just say there is no question that you are the real deal, and you bring art to whatever it is that you're doing. And quite frankly, I believe that you'll bring that same creativity and vision to being a wedding photographer. I mean, being a wedding photographer, it can be like real work that you get paid for, but it doesn't have to be degrading. I mean, you are capturing the memories of people's moments that live on. And if you can bring a real artistic eye to it that creates something that is everlasting in a way that your average photographer may not, then that is something special and worthy. And just like you're saying, Barry, like you go to these events, there's all kinds of people you meet there. If you can get your foot in the door, I mean, it's all about just connecting with people and getting them to know who you are. And then they become interested in your work and what else you do besides just taking pictures. And all I know is do not question. And even if you have to give up painting or it can't be like take up, because I get it. You have bills to pay. You cannot, it's hard to focus on your paintings when you have like things you got to take care of. And then you wonder like, what am I doing? I'm spending all this time doing this thing. What is this getting me where I need to be? Should I be doing this? Yes, you should be doing it, but maybe it can't take up as much time if it doesn't give you the result that you need. But regardless, you will always have a painting going on the easel. Maybe you're not going to have 5 paintings going on, but you have 1 painting going on. You have, maybe the clothes, you do so many things, Michael. Like I follow you, I watch you. I love your videos where you share your process. I mean, it really helped me watching your process videos. It's just, you have so much to offer. You bring it to everything you do. So just know that, and just, you are an artist. And then it's just like, okay, what am I going to do to get the job done today? And,
it's interesting. Listen, I appreciate everything, all the encouragement and everything. And I'm not, I'll deal with what I have to deal with. I think that there's a lot of stuff I'm thinking about here. I think that part of being an artist, and I don't know if everybody feels this way, is the sense of independence, of the sense that as the artist, you have clients, but the clients respect what you do, and they bring that, you become like almost like your own kind of industry. You know who Jeff Koons is. He's got this kind of visual integrity of being himself and doing what he does, right? And I think that for me, that's always been kind of the goal. It's like, if I can be an independent artist, I can make a living as an artist. I can, you always have to deal with clients. I think even, Damien Hirst or Jeff, all these other guys, they still have to go make the sale, and they still have to, keep a relationship with their clients. They're dealing with rich people. I'm sure they have a certain way of doing that. I mean, I was just thinking about Damien Hirst. I don't think he thinks, if he has an open studio, he's not thinking, I'm just going to let people come to the work and they can discover it. My feeling, and this is just from my experience with other people in the world, is the minute they're walking in the door, he's selling. And he's pushing them, and they're going to buy something. They're not leaving without buying something, and it's going to be very expensive, and they're going to buy it. Whether it's his dealer that's doing it, whether Gagosian's doing it, these guys are high-powered. They're there to make money, and that's just I think that's just the world they live in. And to the point of this, the wedding thing, I don't think that photographing weddings is bad. I like photographing weddings. There's something very human about that. Unfortunately, we tend to stick everybody in these kind of situations where we always see the same picture. It's like, there was just something about Annie Leibovitz. What she does is she gets to know the people before she does their portrait. So the portraits are very unique. When I shoot weddings, it's not like that. They don't want to do that. They want basically to, to be put in those situations and run through. And they want to go to the party, and they want to have a drink or whatever. So we're there to do a certain job. The thing that bothers me about doing weddings is that it's not my own business. And for the last 15 years, I've just been working for these other guys, and they can put you in humiliating situations where like this weekend, I worked for the boss. The boss was the main guy, and my job was to be the photojournalist. And basically, whatever he said, I basically had to jump, and that, for me, that's really hard. That's really hard to be, think, I'm doing all these things, and I've got to he's telling me to go photograph the flowers on the table, and I got to drop everything I'm doing to go photograph the flowers because he's got, for whatever, so he can show that he's the boss, whatever the fuck it is, And I think that, a big part of this whole process is that, everybody here has a unique vision, and the world that's what they need. That's the real food that they need for their souls. We're there to do this thing. And that in our society, we have this other hierarchical structure that we've created, where I think that none of us really want to be part of. It's great I'm happy that they get nice pictures. As a matter of fact, so I worked for the boss. He didn't know how to do half the stuff he had to do with this particular thing. I'm doing this 40 years, so I knew what to do. He didn't know what to do, but I could never say, I can't really say anything like that because I've got to recognize the structure. And that's where my frustration comes in. It's not that I don't like doing these things. It's that for the last few years, I said, no, I'm going to pursue this art thing. And now I have no clients, no following, and I'm 64 years old, and I've got to figure out how I'm going to get by. And it's, I can't make it as a security guard. I can't make it as a bus driver. I'm not going to make it. At some point in the very near future, we have a big decision to make, my family. So, I have a family, so there's even more pressure. And it's like, that's what I mean. It's not that these things, if I could pull it together and I would be fine, it would be one thing. I don't see that happening in our society. And I think that's to a greater issue is, I'm thinking about, I'm old, man. I'm whatever time I have left. And these young kids are facing $3,000 a month in rent. What kind of pressure is that on these young people? I got a kid, I don't know how she's going to do it. Anyway, so that's what I mean. I'm thinking about it in a different, in the context, where, I'm thinking about things like, should we just let it flow and then people will find the work? Or do we have to push? And if we do have to push, how is that going to change us as artists? And how is that going to change, what we do? And, because the guys, I'll stop in a second, but there was this TikTok, and this girl said, she was in corporate, right? And she said, if you want to get ahead in corporate, it's not about how well you do your job. Because if you do your job really well, they're going to keep you where you are. But if you know how to work the system with the people and the executives, and you know how to kind of find what their weak spots and find a way to kind of connect with them and build, you're going to be the top executive. And that person that's really good will be working in the same position. So that's just, you know, I have traditional like value ideas, I guess, from my childhood of what you're supposed to be as a man with a family. And I'm kind of, you know, trying to rationalize all that with, you know, thinking I'm going to make, you know, $100,000 a year as an artist and I'll get by. And it's really all about money. It's all about, it's not about money. It's about this thing where you have to have this certain kind of like social power within the context of a society to be able to function. I mean, we all have this pressure. All of us have to figure out how we're gonna, you know, or we can live, you know, in the woods, basically. I don't see.
No, I totally relate to that. I totally relate to what you're saying, Michael, and I totally relate to the sense of disappointment and disillusionment you may feel from time to time with the art world, because I feel that probably every 5 minutes. But there are many paths to getting to what you want. And I sense you're a realist, as I am to some degree. And the reality is, you know, you have to make a living. And how do you do that? So for me, it was letting go of absolutes and the path to enlightenment. There are many paths to enlightenment. Art is one of them, but there are many ways of doing art. And Wendy is absolutely right that, you know, you may find that through photography and making money there, you make connections there, and then you come back to doing what you want to do in some fashion. And it's a circuitous kind of thing, not a linear thing. And that's fine. It's this fantasy that we have that you have to be in the studio 24/7 and push, 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 and they will come. It's not true. Even the top artists have, you know, the galleries that promote them, the marketing people that promote them. They have the machinery, and they're not doing it alone. So there are many ways of getting there. And you have to determine, I guess, every one of us what there is, you know, what, but there's nothing wrong with doing photography and doing something else. And then your art becomes a secondary gig for a while, whatever.
You know,
I
also
totally relate to that.
In a way, having something that you're not a professional. I'm not a professional photographer, so it's liberating. I can photograph anything I please. I'm blessed. I have a pension from New York City, so I'm not dependent upon my artwork for money. So I do whatever I want. If I want to go out and take landscapes, which is what I do, I photograph landscapes. If I want to photograph a different subject matter, like I have a series on cranes, I photograph cranes. I would like my work to be out there. I'm starting to show now again, but in a way, it's kind of nice not being a professional. Just it gives me freedom.
Thomas, did you say you photograph brains?
Cranes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, not brains.
I wouldn't put it past this group. And that's what I like. That's what I like. You know, something happened today, and something's happened in the last 8 talks. What I've noticed is that a lot of the artists really shared some important moments in their life, sometimes totally aware, and other times they ran past it. And I think the art talks, you know, it's hard to say why you do something, but it's nice to know when you push a ball in motion, it rolls right, so to speak, or it rolls and collects good things. And I've noticed that about what we've been doing, and that it's very cathartic and important for the speaker and for us listeners. It's like a dual role. And Michael, you know, you coughed it up today, and it is hard to do. And, you know, I always imagine, you know, it's very important. And what we end up acting, if you notice, we all came to like support you. It was the Hive at its best. I almost feel like these rectangular screens, we should make them octagonal, be really cool so we look like bees or something. But everybody wanted to support you. And you support us with ideas and thoughts, like I always say, far more than you know. And your work affects people. And yes, the business plan of an artist, it is, you know, just be happy you're not a poet. You know, maybe that's the way to look at it. And, you know, personally, I raised a family and I ran a family business. And so I spent 20, 25 years doing that. You know, there are, I think, Olga was saying it, there are a lot of different paths, even though I say there are no paths, but there are a lot of different presences. And any presence, whether you're, you know, out in Sedona looking at a red mountain, or you're in your studio, that can be sort of everything or nothing in the best of ways. And I think when we come together, and it's painful to share, and it's painful to hear, but we sort of not only heal through it, but we realize you're not alone in your studio. And everybody, whatever you said, Michael, everybody was like, yeah, I know that feeling. We're all, and you said it too. You know, you're going into the individual you, but you're coming out with the universal. And maybe that's the best we can do in our art. We can jump inside, but we're hitting these really deep core concepts that maybe are beyond what we understand, because we know how to make. Doesn't mean we know how to explain. So I'll say we're on Tuesdays now. I want to thank everybody. Thomas, when you spoke up, that was the best moment for me. Do you know why?
Why?
It made all of us spoke and contributed. And so there's a certain, you know, 8 out of 9, 88% is great, you know, not for a math grade, but 100% has a ring. It's sort of like a ceramics on the wheel. When you're really in center and you're pulling up, there's a feeling you cannot explain. There's a balance. And so all of us speaking and talking, and thank you. You know, thanks for your time. I'm going to be off next Tuesday. CIA interrogation over foie gras and all beaucoup. Thank you to Michael and to Elisa for sharing. And of course, to all of you. That was always good. Always good to see you all.
Bye, everybody.
Sorry.
No sorries, Michael.
No apologize, Mike.
That was good.
It's good. Just order us all Chinese food. Have it delivered.
Bye, everyone. And